How should voters look at some of the changes that you've made in your policy?
Dana, I think the most important and most significant aspect of my policy perspective and decisions is my values have not changed.
That's the most important. My values have not changed. So you still support the Green New Deal, want to do away with combustion engines, are for open borders. You want to do away with detention facilities for illegal aliens. You're pro-crime. You're for bailing out rioters and looters with money that you help raise. And yeah, sure. Your values haven't changed. Then later she explained it's her value. It's her value that hadn't changed. I was just talking about the story, the big gambling houses saying that as a result of last night's CNN interview, Kamala Harris's numbers have gone down. The likelihood of her winning the election has decreased as a result of last night's, even with the notes in her hand and looking down and squinting. Oh, well, here's my answer that somebody gave me. So the gamblers said go down. Now Nate Silver, who is one of the Democrat Party's sacred pollsters, and he does the numbers. And just like that, Trump is now back to being the favorite in Nate Silver's election model, and it's not a half a percentage point either. Nate Silver is 538. He's got Trump with 52% of the vote and Harris with 47. That's a 5-point spread. That's the biggest spread I've seen anywhere on anything. And I really am, this year in particular, I think the polls are becoming increasingly useless and unreliable. This Nate Silver guy is loved by the media and the Democrat Party. But, yes, sir. Now, it's crazy. It's all about the electoral votes and not the national popular vote tally. But nevertheless, he's got Kamala Harris with 47.3% of the vote, Donald Trump with 52.4% of the vote. And that is a fairly big swing. You see the little lines have crossed over in Nate Silver's poll. But don't believe any of it because it's all just polling, and you shouldn't take it too seriously. What you should do is vote. And you should vote as soon as early voting becomes available. The Democrats have corrupted our system of electing people in so many different ways. But we have to get out and vote early, and vote often, as we say in Chicago. I've been saying that forever. Vote early, vote often. Old Chicago Democrats saying, and and then everybody laughs a little bit. But there is a great Babylon Bee headline that came out yesterday, but they've got a picture of Tim Walz and a picture of Kamala Harris. And the headline in the Babylon Bee is "Strong, Capable Woman Asks Man to Come With Her to Job Interview in case they ask any hard questions." And so we want to get to that. Now, USA Today, speaking of our corrupt media, were we speaking of our corrupt media? Yeah, sure. We're always speaking of our corrupt media. They're a big part of everything. Here's the headline. They're attacking J.D. Vance. And this is kind of remarkable. USA Today, the headline is, in quotation marks, "They tried to kill him," end quote. And the headline at USA Today is, "They tried to kill him is now the bogus claim Vance uses to introduce Trump." How is that a bogus claim? He was shot through the ear as he turned his head by a Democrat lunatic mental case with a rifle on a rooftop over there who had Googled how far away was Lee Harvey Oswald when he shot John F. Kennedy. And then they say in the FBI, I was sharing this with you too, well, we can't say what his politics are because he Googled things about the Democratic convention and he Googled things about the Republican convention. And then he shot the Republican in the head. You lose your Republican card when you shoot the Republican candidate in the head. That's how you can tell he's a Democrat. That's the FBI. They're a little unclear on this. I'm here to help, though. Hey, FBI, get your pen out. Get your U.S. government Skillcraft pen out. When you shoot the Republican president in the head with a rifle, that's a sign you're a Democrat and not a Republican. But he was a registered Republican. And he gave money to Act Blue, the radical left-wing group. And then the biggest clue of all is he shot Donald Trump. See, that may be the biggest clue of all. Forget what he Googled for now, because it's about the shot to the head clue. So the headline on USA Today: they tried to kill him is now the bogus claim Vance uses to introduce Trump. Now, how is that a bogus claim, you might ask? I know that's what you're wondering. And the subheadline at USA Today: Chris Brennan typed the story on behalf of the extreme left radical Democrat Party, which is violent and has more than their share of criminals. The subheadline: the bogus narrative. How's that a bogus narrative? Did I miss something that turns out there wasn't? Crooks with a rifle shooting 8 shots at Trump and hitting him in the head and killing another man and wounding 2 more people, firing 8 shots, and then he was shot through the face by a counter sniper. The bogus narrative has been refined to a speech loaded into a teleprompter. Vance, who reviled Trump before flip-flopping into his biggest fan, is the perfect politician to deliver that lie. Boy, you guys need medication, honestly. I'm wondering if this guy, Chris Brennan, maybe he's the illegitimate daughter of John Brennan. Maybe he's the offspring of penitentiary face Brennan. Isn't that amazing? And this is USA Today. You're going to lose your press credentials to the White House, I think. Being the running mate on Donald Trump's presidential ticket has always required a certain flexibility with truth and accuracy. Really? This is the guy who served in the Marine Corps and went to Iraq and wait a minute, the flexibility with truth and accuracy. And Kamala Harris has flip-flopped on everything from fracking to the border to detention to taxes to the list goes on. And her running mate with the fake command sergeant major and his time in Iraq that never existed. But U.S. Senator J.D. Vance, USA Today continues, the Republican from Ohio, now running to be Trump's next vice president, stretched the truth well beyond the breaking point twice this month while introducing the former one-term president at rallies. One-term president so far. Vance, in both speeches, echoed the conspiracy theories that cropped up right after Trump survived an assassination attempt at a rally in Pennsylvania last month. And then the next paragraph has the word "they" in quotation marks. They are the new villain in Trump world. Okay, they're the new villain. Wouldn't that be they're the new villains because it's plural? But with them, their daughter is they, and their son is them. So more complicated when you're a Democrat. They are the new villain in Trump world, as in, quote, they tried to kill him, end quote. But who are they? The speeches provide plenty of clues, even as the Trump campaign dodged my attempt to get clarification on who Vance was talking about. They tried to kill him? Guess who? Vance, while introducing Trump at a rally in North Carolina last week, cast his would-be boss in Trump's favorite role as the victim. Now, how many times do you have to be shot in the head by a Democrat before they stop attacking you and claim that you're trying to be a victim? Well, the wound has healed fairly well from the rifle shot, but see if you can count up the lies and distortions with me, says Chris Brennan. Quote, he traded everything for an unjust persecution, for slander, for scorn. So that now he traded everything. He had an awful lot of New York billionaire with his own 757 airliner and buildings all over the world with his name on the top of them and stuff. He traded everything for an unjust persecution. I think you look at these people and the things they've charged him with. What is it? 34 felonies for a non-disclosure agreement. I'll bet USA Today has had women enter into non-disclosure agreements. Hey, Chris Brennan, why don't you look into how many non-disclosure agreements USA Today has coerced out of women? Traded everything for an unjust prosecution, for slander, for scorn, so that we could save the United States of America. Now, they couldn't beat him at the ballot box, so they tried to bankrupt him. All that's true. They failed at that, so they tried to impeach him. That's true. They failed at that, so they tried to put him in prison. They even tried to kill him. Yeah, his enemies tried to kill him. And I played the audio yesterday of Joe Biden himself saying that Donald Trump is a threat to our democracy and to our way of life, which is then they compare him to Hitler all the time. Hitler, his Socialist Workers' Party and all that stuff.
What, in your view, constitutes the primary threat to freedom and democracy at home?
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump, freedom and democracy. Seriously, the primary threat to freedom and democracy is Donald Trump. And then a Democrat shot him in the head and nearly assassinated him, nearly killed him. Yeah, those are them. That's them. You know, the haters. It's the Trump haters. That's the they, that's the them. And it's not one person like your daughter, you know.
I believe that the president is literally an existential threat to America.
Yeah, they, them, you know, those are the people. Those people. And USA Today, with just this masturbatory psychosis, spoiler alert, if you haven't guessed by now, they are the Democratic Party. I tallied 5 lies in all that, with they being the newest and most insidious deception. Is that so? This is all, I guess, predicated on the idea that the Democrat that shot Donald Trump in the head acted alone, all right? And if you say they, then you get this treatment from USA Today. And the next headline, one person tried to kill Trump, and he wasn't a Democrat. This is the thing. Again, Vance's introduction, and I know what he's going to say here going forward, telling you about Thomas Matthew Crooks, the 20-year-old registered Republican. And, this guy is a massive rectal aperture, this Chris Brennan person. I know, and maybe he's too ignorant to know, that the Democrat Party engaged in a very public campaign, in particular in the state of Pennsylvania, where Crooks was from before he was shot in the face and killed by a federal government sniper. And the Democrats launched a massive campaign to get Democrats to register as Republicans so they could vote in the Republican primaries and vote against the pro-Trump candidates and vote for, in the Republican primaries, the candidate that the Democrats believed they could most easily defeat. As a big push by the Democrat Party, in particular in Pennsylvania. And yeah, he registered as a Republican, but I bet he's not going to point out that he gave money, and the only group he gave money to is a very left-wing group called Act Blue that gets Democrats elected. That's who he gave his money to, right? He registered as a Republican because the Democrats want to monkey wrench the system. They want to sabotage. They want to undermine Republicans. And so Crooks did register as a Republican. But to claim that he's a Republican after he shot Donald Trump in the head, I think is a little bit of a stretch. Just a little bit of a stretch. But that's our news media, the filthiest, most corrupt institution in America. And this is an attack on J.D. Vance, who did serve in Iraq and didn't lie about it. Hey, Chris Brennan, where's your story on that lion Sacagawea that's Kamala Harris's running mate. You got one of those coming up? Is that in tomorrow's paper? Now we got a nice call from a nice listener saying, "Hey, Chris Brennan at USA Today is a woman," and it's so hard with Democrats these days. It's Christine Brennan, and it's true. We looked it up to be thorough. They do have a Christine Brennan at USA Today, who is presumably a woman. But they also have a Chris Brennan, fairly common Irish name, Brennan. And but this is by the male. We checked his photo. Who does he look like? He looks like Brian Seltzerwater. He's kind of a chubby, doughy, unathletic, unattractive to women kind of man. Chris Brennan, a Democrat, a liberal. Can't throw a football. You throw a baseball at him, it'd hit him in the forehead, and he'd get a bruise because you know how Democrats are. Now, speaking of Democrats and how Democrats are, a press release out today from Texas, the great state of Texas, the Republican of Texas, a Texas state representative who's a Democrat. Her name is Sean Nicole Thierry, like the French Thierry, Thierry. And she is a Texas state representative. And she put out a statement this morning. Texas State Representative Sean Thierry announces party switch to Republican Party. I am leaving the left and joining the party of family, faith, and freedom. All right, welcome. Welcome, Sean. She says the Democratic Party, I'll say that I prefer Democrat Party because they're not democratic, right? But the Democratic Party has veered so far left, she writes, so deep into the progressive abyss that it now champions policies I cannot, in good conscience, support. Policies like promoting sex changes for vulnerable children and dismantling Title IX protections for women in sports. That is why I'm leaving the left and joining the party of family, faith, and freedom. I now stand with colleagues, friends, neighbors, women, and mothers in the Republican Party. Good for you. That's just great. Texas Governor Greg Abbott applauded her decision, and rightly so.
But resist we much. We must and we will much. About that, be committed.
I love that man. I'll admit it's because he serves my purposes, of course. And in fact, I was watching the television yesterday, and the Reverend Al Sharpton was on. Tawana Brawley was nowhere to be found, but the Reverend Al was on there, and I laughed out loud because he was on. I had the MSDNC. I guess I had a MSDNC on, right? Because I actually shot a clip of video with my phone off of the television, and I sent it to Michael Piercy, and I sent it to a couple of other people too. A little video clip, and I will now share the audio portion of that with you because it made me laugh. I thought it was quite funny. The Reverend Al, yesterday on the television, talking about the Biden-Harris record and how wonderful they are and how great everything is as long as, nobody in your family has been raped and murdered by illegal alien gangs from Venezuela or any of that stuff, never mind that, or you haven't gone bankrupt and the inflation hasn't prevented your children from buying a house and all that, and the interest rates, and never mind that. But war in Ukraine maybe hasn't affected, war in Israel hasn't affected your families, and the supply chain problems. Everything's great, really, and gas prices. All right, so here's the Reverend Al Sharpton yesterday. It made me laugh out loud when I saw it, and I plucked it, and now I get to share it with you. It's part of the fun.
I think the naivety of some that question that she may have changed on some things, they're comparing something that may have been 4 years ago with something that was 4 years later. The situation changed.
Right. Yeah, they're all in agreement. Well, I'm sorry, what is it? It's Fred talking about flip-flopping. Well, she's flip-flopped on all these issues. And he says that this is just a matter of naivety.
I think the naivety of some that question.
The naivety of some that question. He is, a multi-million dollar. I looked him up yesterday to see the net worth of the Reverend Al Sharpton, and even that's a lie. It's absolutely amazing. These guys, they will take the lie to depths never before seen. Just extraordinary stuff. All right, let's get back to the big. I just wanted to use the naivety because I love the naivety thing. The Reverend Al.
Naivety.
That's right, the naivety. The naivete. The naivete. Is that what you're going for?
Naivety.
Yeah, the naivety. He's one of America's leading journalists.
So, in the words of my late friend Aretha Franklin, show some RESPICT.
That's right. He's an award-winning journalist with NBC News. NBC News, it's a network news organization. And the Reverend Al, who, Tawana Brawley fame, the Crown Heights riots and the killing the Jews. He was through the door on that early, too. Remarkable stuff.
Yeah, well, good luck with that one.
Exactly. That's what they say. All right, now let's, because we're talking about Kamala flip-flopping, and it's not what? It's the naivete. It's the
naivety.
It's the naivety. The naivety. I can't even store that mispronunciation to use it again. But let's go, because we're talking about, and they were talking about at MSDNC about Kamala flip-flopping on a whole lot of issues. Like this one from 2019. This is another one that she doesn't want to do anymore. She wanted to close down all of the illegal alien immigration centers back then just to wave everybody into the country.
When you become president, would you be committing to close immigration detention centers?
Absolutely, on day one.
Day one. Woo! Woo! I didn't get a woo out of that guy. Let's get a woo. Get a woo out of that guy. Absolutely. Day one, closing those down, waving all the illegal alien gang members from Venezuela in here to take over your apartment building and kill your family, because that's the demo. That'll be good for our carbon footprint once everybody's been killed and aborted, because that'll make it better. The air will be cleaner to breathe. I'd just go with an Eden Pure Thunderstorm air purifier. Better than killing everybody like the Democrats want. And last night, Dana Bash, she was asking the questions, and she put the question to Kamala, hey, you've flip-flopped on a lot of stuff on the border and on detention centers, and now you've adopted a bunch of Trump policies like no taxes on tips, and you used to be against fracking, dead set against it, and you're with the Green New Deal, and now you've flip-flopped on all these things. The question wasn't quite that pointed.
How should voters look at some of the changes that you've made, that you've explained some of here in your policy? Is it because you have more experience now and you've learned more about
Give her some
information?
options.
Is it because you were running for president in a Democratic primary?
Why'd you flip-flop?
And should they feel comfortable and confident that what you're saying now is going to be your policy moving forward?
Dana, I think the most important and most significant aspect of my policy perspective and decisions is my values have not changed.
My values have not changed. Her values have not changed. And that's the important thing. So you're still for the Green New Deal and doing away with combustion engines. Now, this is, if it were a pointed interview, then this is where the questions would go. You want all, because she said by 2035, I think we had to be all electric vehicles in the United States. And it turned out that was a really bad idea. And it doesn't poll very well either. And people are dumping their electric vehicles all over the place in the United States of America in record numbers, and numbers never before seen. And Kamala, for example, you're for the Green New Deal, and that meant banning fracking, but now you're not for banning fracking, but you're still for the Green New Deal. And I think that she was the tie-breaking vote in the Senate to get the Green New Deal through, which would end combustion engines, and then all the air would be clean and your children would be healthy, the ones that survived, and all that. Kamala.
You mentioned the Green New Deal. I have always believed, and I have worked on it, that the climate crisis is real,
Climate
that
crisis.
it is an urgent matter
It's urgent.
to which we should apply metrics that include holding ourselves to deadlines around time.
Wow.
We did that with the Inflation Reduction Act. We have set goals for the United States of America and by extension the globe around when we should meet certain standards for reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, as an example. That value has not changed.
It's a value. It's a singular value. She has values, and then on each issue she has singular values. It's just one value there, which is kind of interesting. So her values haven't changed, but her policies have changed. And you don't get a lot of pushback there from the policies have changed. But she asked the question, and Kamala gave a meandering BS answer. But one of the funny parts of that, just one of the funny parts of that was how did she put it now?
Holding ourselves to deadlines around time.
Deadlines around time. You want to hold ourselves to deadlines around time as opposed to deadlines around space or deadlines around water. What other kind of deadlines are there? That's what a deadline is. It's a due date. It's a time at which you are to be done. It's like Tren de Aragua. They've got this Venezuelan gang taken over a piece of Aurora, Colorado, and apartment complexes there with their rifles and their pistols drawn and knocking people's doors down. That's a remarkable story. The Democrats are okay with that. But her value has not changed. Isn't that remarkable? Kamala, and let's be clear about her value and her value. She's got a number of singular value issues that, when they're bundled together, become values.
My value around what we need to do to secure our border.
That
value has not changed. I spent two terms
value.
as the Attorney General of California prosecuting transnational criminal organizations, violations of American laws regarding the illegal passage of guns, drugs, and human beings across our border. My values have not changed.
That's homophobic, though. I mean, she's waging war against transnational gangs. Is that they have those now? They have they have gangs where the men dress like ladies. Is that what's going on there? She's got those things. She does not speak well. She's not good on her feet. She doesn't respond well when she's off the cue cards, and she did have cue cards during the interview yesterday that she referred to quite frequently, gazing down into her lap, where she had the index cards with cheater notes on there cupped in her hands. And when you're a Democrat, that's okay. And Dana Bash didn't call her on it and say, are you reading from cue cards? Are you reading your answers from cue cards? Because that's pretty nutty. My values. And she says that it's time for a new way forward. But Joe Biden is technically still the president, right? Even though he's in an iron lung in Delaware. And Kamala is acting something or other. Changing course, a new way forward, that means not you guys. That means getting rid of you guys. That's what that means. And that's what she's for. But her value hasn't changed. She's still worth the same amount of money she was worth last time around.
Let's be clear. My values have not changed. I believe it is very important that we take seriously what we must do to guard against what is a clear crisis in terms of the climate. And to do that, we can do what we have accomplished thus far. The Inflation Reduction Act, what we have done to invest, by my calculation,
the climate,
over probably $1 trillion over the next 10 years.
Trillion.
Investing in a clean energy economy.
It's a big number. They're very impressed when they use large numbers. When they say $1 trillion, it's, $1 trillion here, $1 trillion there, and pretty soon we're talking about real money. to paraphrase Everett Dirksen from many years ago, who famously said $1 billion here, $1 billion there, and pretty soon we're talking about real money, and everybody laughed at the time. Yeah, $1 billion, that's a lot of money. Now they're talking trillions, now that we're $34 trillion in debt. Isn't that amazing? And they've got these transnational gangs. Just amazing, amazing stuff. They're waving in. I think you get priority seating when you're a transgender gang member from Venezuela in the Democrat Party. Isn't that amazing? And the Inflation Reduction Act fixed the climate. That was another $1 trillion bill, wasn't it? And you saw the Supreme Court again came down on the Biden administration and again said, no, you can't pay off everybody's student loan debt in exchange for their votes. And they're going to find a way to weasel their way around that, too, because that's what they do. They might enlist the help of transnational gangs. I thought trans just meant one thing now, and that was transgenderism. It's why this lady has left the Democrat Party in Texas. By the way, I read a little more about that. The Democrat, she came out, she voted against the transgenderizing school children at taxpayer expense in Texas. So the Democrats spent $1 million campaigning against her. They spent them for a state house seat in Texas. Isn't that amazing? But now Sean Nicole Thierry is a Republican, and good for her. Might be too late because the Democrats might have already demolished her. All right, now there was a fun moment last night. I texted them about this too, where Kamala Harris is talking to Dana Bash, who's been around for quite some time now, if I do say so myself. And there was just a funny little moment that made me laugh. Now, keep in mind that you cannot mispronounce Kamala's name or you're a racist. Don't say Kamala, because no, it's Kamala. And don't say Camelot like the strip joint down on Connecticut Avenue in Washington, D.C., which is where you can find the Kennedy family and Hunter Biden. But here is Kamala last night mangling Dana Bash's name and tripping over herself when she does it.
From my experience as vice president, we can do it without banning fracking. In fact, Dana, I cast a tie-breaking vote that actually increased leases for fracking.
Yeah.
She signed but you were dead set against it, and then you cast the tie-breaking vote that okayed leases for fracking. None of these things make any sense at all, of course. But wait, is it Dana or Dana? Is it Dana or Dana? Isn't it racist to mispronounce her name, her Dana, because... And then she chuckles and says, oh, sorry, did I? She doesn't know her name. I'm the designated fluffer today. I'm in charge of today's tongue bath. Isn't that amazing?
In fact, Dana.
Dana. Let's call the whole thing off. All right, Michael and I were just talking, maybe Kamala screwed up Dana, because she was looking at the cue cards and probably had Dana's name on the cue card and said, Dana, whatever, sorry.
In fact, Dana,
Dana, whatever it is, excuse me. Now, Dana, it's Dana Bash. Naivety. Let's go.
Naivety.
The naivety. I gotta incorporate that into my lexicon. The Dana asked Tim Walz about this claim that he's made that he carried a weapon of war, a rifle, into war. Asked him about that and watch him dodge and evade and run around the reservation.
I want to ask you a question about how you've described your service in the National Guard. You said that you carried weapons in war, but you have never deployed actually in a war zone. A campaign official said that you misspoke. Did you?
Well, first of all, I'm incredibly proud. I've done 24 years of wearing the uniform of this country.
Command Sergeant
I'm
Major.
proud of my service in a public school classroom, whether it's Congress or the governor.
He's evading the question.
My record speaks for itself, but I think people
Speaks
are
for
coming to get
itself.
to know me. I speak like they do. I speak candidly. I wear my emotions on my sleeves.
Yeah, but you didn't. You're evading the question, running all over the place.
The idea that you said that you were in war. Yeah. Did you misspeak, as the campaign has said?
Yeah, I said we were talking about, in this case, this was after a school shooting.
Thanks for giving me the word.
Weapons of war. And my wife, the English teacher, told me my grammar is not always correct. But again, if it's not this, it's an attack on my children for showing love for me, or it's an attack on my dog.
What are you talking about?
One thing I'll never do is I'll never
now he's the
another
victim.
member's service in any way. I never have.
That's not what we're talking about. It's what are you talking? My dog and my son's love, and yeah, but we were talking about you claiming that you served in combat, and now he's the victim. Oh, people are going after me for saying it is Democrats and the tongue bath. I think we barely have time, but let's grab a quick phone call. Let's go to Bill in Herndon, Virginia. Very little time, Bill, but you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hi, Chris.
Hey.
It's good to talk to you. Kamala's values not changing. Yeah, of course not. She lied then. She's lying now. Joe Biden lied about fracking to the country's face in the debate with Donald Trump. Kamala Harris is doing the same thing. My wife made an interesting comment before she left to go to the store. She said, tell Chris that Kamala should be more like Trump and put some orange streaks in her hair, which I'm waiting for. Hey, you answered a question when you were talking about the papers and the notes. I didn't watch the interview. I just saw bits and pieces of it. But I was wondering why she gave up the position directly across from the interviewer, and now I know why. Because she had to hide the notes below the table.
You know what? You're right. Had she been on the end of the table, we'd see. That's very good. That is an astute observation. That is a good call. She had to choose that, and the camera was head on, and she could hide her notes.